part 3 of seeing what all this nonsense is. News. 11 hurricanes? I'm excited for this. What? No.
Weather can be unpredictable, so when the forecast gets it wrong, Ford SUVs get it right. Right now, returning lessees can lease a Bronco Sport for $299 a month only at your local Ford stores.
How about we take a little hurricane season inventory? How many named storms have we received in the Atlantic Basin? That number is 17, and of those 17, 11 have become hurricanes. 2 of those hurricanes, Beryl and Milton, reached Category 5 status. So, is 11 hurricanes in one season a record? No, that number is 15, and that occurred back in 2005. 2020 saw 14 hurricanes, and the 11 that we've seen so far in 2024 is tied with several
Why
other
is
years.
it on the
Of
lowest?
course, the most important aspect is if those make landfall. Of the 11 hurricanes that we've seen so far in 2024, 8 have made landfall as a hurricane.
Weather can be unpredictable, so when the forecast gets it wrong, Ford SUVs get it right.
What about Hurricane Milton?
Bronco Sport for $299
One time I saw this
only
thing that was
at
like
your local
most
Ford
dangerous
stores.
natural disasters and
Raphael has
put
weakened significantly in the
snowstorm
Gulf
as
due to dry
like
air
the
and
first
hostile
most
environmental
dangerous,
winds.
and then I typed in the comments Hurricane
The storm will
Milton
meander
joined
slowly
the
toward the
chat.
southwest over the coming several days, bringing rain and wind to central Mexico. Here in the U.S., we will see some big surf on the Gulf beaches this weekend, so please use caution if swimming or walking near the shoreline.
Weather can be unpredictable, so when the forecast gets it wrong, Ford SUVs get it right. Right now, returning lessees can lease a Bronco Sport for $299 a month only at your local Ford stores.
If you thought the hurricane season was done, think again. We still have the entire month of November, although November only accounts for about 5% of tropical activity on average. So, where do storms typically form in November? Well, it's where the water temperatures are warm enough. Places like the Western Caribbean, the Bahamas, or off the southeast coast, or out into the central Atlantic. Here's a look at all the storms that have developed since 1966.
Now I want to go to
Typically,
Florida.
we don't get strong hurricanes, but it can happen. All of the major hurricanes that have developed have either been in the Gulf of Mexico or the Western Caribbean. And here's a look at some notable hurricanes that have developed in November.
No fear.
Weather can be unpredictable, so when the forecast gets it wrong, Ford SUVs get it right. Right now, returning lessees can lease a Bronco Sport for $299 a month only at your local Ford stores.
We see them often, but what do spaghetti models really mean? Spaghetti models are a forecasting tool that helps give a visual of possible tracks. Each plot represents a different forecast model of a storm's expected path. When put side by side, you can see how the predictions compare, and you can see that there are many different models based on various kinds of data. While they are extremely helpful, they do not show where impacts will occur.
Weather can be unpredictable, so when the forecast gets it wrong, Ford SUVs get it right. Right now, returning lessees
There's
can
no
lease a
way a
Bronco
car
Sport
can
for
make the
$299 a month
prediction be
only
right.
at your
Just
local Ford
listen
stores.
to it.
Here's a simplified version of Hurricane Milton's history. Forecasters were watching a swirl begin to brew in the Gulf on October 4th. By October 7th, Milton had rapidly intensified and had sustained winds of 180 miles per hour. Eventually, those winds would come down as Milton made landfall on October 9th as a Category 3 storm, being held helped by a boundary over the Atlantic and jet stream winds aloft. So Milton had a transition of energy before moving ashore, which continued as Milton moved across Florida into the Atlantic, feeding on the temperature differences across a frontal boundary like a winter storm does. It became a powerful post-tropical hurricane strength low on October 10th, which is rare to document a post-tropical low at hurricane strength because up until recently, the NHC didn't declare systems with such strength as post-tropical, but this has changed in the last few years.
It sounded like that.
Weather can be unpredictable. So when the forecast gets it wrong, Ford SUVs get it right.
I like natural disasters, but I want to see ads about the election, not about a car.
Right now, returning lessees can be some Bronco Sport for $299 a month, only at your local Ford stores.
What are the factors that influence the impacts of a tropical system? Well, for one that's making a direct landfall, here's some of the factors that can influence that. Things like the intensity of the storm, how fast it's moving inland.
How come a million hurricanes can't scare me, but 43 monkeys can scare me?
Shape and size can have a huge role
Like,
in
I
things
can
like
watch
storm
this all
surge,
day
how the
and
water
not
is piled
get
up against the
scared.
coastline. In that right front quadrant near the eye wall, for example, the
But
storm surge
watching
can be the most
43 monkeys get released for 1 second, I'm running to Canada.
intense. And with a direct landfall, things can be confined near the center, but consider
I would rather not have the freedom of speech than be in an outbreak. Not saying I'm actually gonna run to Canada, but if I was able to, I would.
For an indirect landfall, that can really spread out the impacts like wind and rain
Part
and storm
3.
surge. And all